Friedrich Nietzsche once suggested something that many people quietly avoid thinking about. The clearer someone sees reality, the harder it becomes to feel comfortable inside it. Yet society prefers to tell a very different story about intelligence, a story that sounds inspiring. In that story, intelligent people live easier lives. They understand things faster, they solve problems effortlessly. They always seem to know what to say. From the outside, intelligence appears like a gift that makes life smoother. But the deeper truth is far more complicated. Because throughout history, many of the most perceptive minds lived with something very different. Restlessness, endless curiosity, a mind that refuses to settle for simple answers. And when that kind of awareness awakens, something subtle begins to change. Not only in the way you think, but in the way you begin to see everything around you. The surface of things stops feeling convincing. Conversations reveal patterns. Actions contradict words. And slowly, the world begins to look less simple than it once appeared.
For many reflective individuals, this shift happens gradually. There is rarely a dramatic moment. Instead, awareness grows quietly. Before that shift, life feels straightforward. Social expectations appear natural. Conversations follow predictable rhythms. But slowly, the mind begins noticing something unusual. People repeat the same opinions again and again. Arguments follow familiar structures. Emotional reactions appear almost rehearsed. At first, these observations seem harmless, but eventually they begin to change how you experience everyday interactions. You start realizing that many beliefs people carry have rarely been examined deeply. They were inherited, adopted from culture, repeated until they felt true. And once that realization appears, it becomes difficult to ignore.
This awareness often creates a subtle distance. You continue participating in normal life. You talk, laugh, and interact with others. But internally, something has shifted. You begin observing conversations almost from the outside. You notice patterns in how people think. You see how easily opinions spread without reflection. And occasionally, a strange thought appears. Are people truly thinking about these ideas, or are they simply repeating what they have always heard? This awareness rarely produces arrogance. Instead, it often produces curiosity, a deeper desire to understand why people think the way they do. But the distance remains, a quiet awareness that not everyone is looking at the same layers of reality.
Friedrich Nietzsche believed societies depend heavily on shared illusions, ideas that remain stable because they are rarely questioned. Moral traditions, cultural values, accepted truths. These structures provide stability. They allow people to move through life with confidence. But Nietzsche argued that once someone begins questioning these ideas deeply, their foundation begins to weaken. Certainty fades. What once appeared permanent begins to look temporary, and the world suddenly becomes more complex than it once seemed. Clarity, paradoxically, can feel unsettling, because illusions, fragile as they may be, often make life easier.
There is a quiet irony surrounding intelligence. Society celebrates it, but it rarely acknowledges what intelligence actually does. Because intelligence does not only create answers, it creates questions. Questions about authority, questions about traditions, questions about human behavior. And questions have a way of disrupting comfortable systems. For that reason, many environments reward agreement more than reflection. Agreement maintains harmony. Reflection introduces uncertainty. But analytical minds struggle to remain satisfied with easy explanations. They continue exploring, examining, questioning, even when doing so makes life more complicated. One of the defining characteristics of highly analytical people is constant mental activity. Thoughts rarely stop. Ideas appear unexpectedly. Questions arise during the quietest moments. While others may relax easily, the analytical mind often continues exploring possibilities, replaying conversations, imagining future outcomes, connecting ideas that once seemed unrelated. This constant thinking can be both powerful and exhausting. On one hand, it allows deeper understanding. Patterns become visible. Hidden connections appear. But on the other hand, silence becomes difficult. The mind keeps moving. And the more someone relies on analytical thinking, the harder it becomes to stop analyzing. Imagine that most people live in a room illuminated by soft light. The light reveals enough detail to move comfortably, but it does not expose every imperfection. Now imagine increasing the brightness dramatically. Suddenly, the room appears different. Cracks in the walls become visible. Dust particles floating through the air appear clearly. Nothing about the room itself has changed, only the intensity of the light. Intelligence often works in a similar way. It increases the intensity of perception, and when perception becomes sharper, certain details become impossible to ignore. Nietzsche expressed this idea in one of his most famous observations. He who fights with monsters should take care not to become a monster. And if you gaze long enough into an abyss, the abyss will gaze back into you. This idea is often interpreted as a warning, but it is also a reflection on awareness. Examining reality deeply inevitably leads to examining yourself, your beliefs, your fears, your motivations, and few experiences are as intense as understanding the structure of your own mind. Nietzsche believed some individuals experience what might be called intellectual awakening, a moment when inherited beliefs stop feeling convincing. Old explanations lose their authority. New questions appear. This transformation is rarely comfortable. It requires abandoning familiar certainties, but it can also be liberating, because once someone recognizes that many social structures are constructed rather than absolute, new possibilities appear. The mind becomes freer, free to reinterpret, free to question, free to think independently. Perhaps the greatest challenge of intelligence is not understanding the world, but learning how to live within it. Balancing reflection with experience, thought with action,
because a powerful mind can easily become trapped in endless analysis. Yet that same mind can also become something extraordinary, a way of seeing possibilities others never notice. And perhaps Nietzsche understood something many people still struggle to accept. Some minds are simply meant to question, to observe, to examine reality more deeply than comfort allows. And although that path may sometimes feel lonely, it offers something rare, a deeper understanding of life itself.